Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Commissioner Moskowitz for welcoming me here to her home county of Chester County. I also want to thank her for her great leadership on the board here at SEPTA. I want to acknowledge all the other board members who are here, including my appointee, Rob Fox, and all of the board members that work incredibly hard every day to support SEPTA. I want to thank Senator Hughes, our Appropriations Chairman, and Chairman Nielsen, our Transportation Chairman in the House, for joining us. You will hear from them in a moment. Of course, I want to thank my partner in progress, Mayor Parker, who you will also hear from in a few moments. Let me begin by just saying how thankful I am to the women and men who work at SEPTA and do this incredibly important task for our community every single day. From those who wear a uniform to keep us safe, to those who inspect rail cars like the ones behind me, to those who greet you when you get on the trolley, each and every member of this SEPTA workforce is super critical in our communities for the 800,000 people that rely on SEPTA every single day. I just got a tour of the work they're doing here at the Fraser shop, and I saw the Silverliner 4s in all their glory and what it takes to get them back to work. This technology, and I am far from an engineer, is antiquated, but it is critically important that while they are operational, they be safe. And the work that is going on here is ensuring their safety. This shop here has been working around the clock over the last several weeks, and they have already completed the full repair of more than 100 rail cars that are now safely back in service. Scott will speak to this later, but yesterday they announced that the evening express trains will resume today with this afternoon's commute as a result of this hard work. You know, over the last several months, I've talked again and again how important mass transit is to our entire Commonwealth, and particularly for our economy right here in southeastern Pennsylvania. As I mentioned before, 800,000 riders depend on SEPTA every single day, including 55,000 students who rely on SEPTA to get to school. I want to put that in some perspective with you. That is nearly 1 million people. We have 13 million people in the entire Commonwealth, and about 1 million of them rely on SEPTA every single day. That's an extraordinary number and an extraordinary service that SEPTA provides. Major employers understand this. They depend on SEPTA to get their workers to and from work, especially here in this community. Think about it. More than 4,000 CHOP employees rely on SEPTA every single day. 12,000 employees at Penn and Penn Medicine rely on SEPTA every single day. 75% of Comcast's workforce rely on SEPTA every single day. Many of them rely on these regional rail cars to get to work. These are workers, these are moms, these are dads, these are students, so many Pennsylvanians who want to get to work, who want to spend time with their families, who want to catch a game, who just want to enjoy this community, and they rely on SEPTA to get around. Heck, when I worked in Center City at a law firm, I relied on SEPTA every day. I got there to and from downtown on the regional rail, getting on and off at Rydell. And look, I think SEPTA is also critical for those who don't ride it every single day, because our trains, our trolleys, our buses, that keeps cars off of the roads, which means less congestion, which means less pollution, and which means more opportunities for people to get where they need to go by car in a timely fashion. This is critically important to the folks who live here and rely on it every day. It's also going to be critical to the millions who visit Pennsylvania and southeastern Pennsylvania in particular next year as part of America 250. Where the eyes of the world are going to be on Pennsylvania, the birthplace of democracy. SEPTA is going to transport millions of additional passengers, whether they're going to the FIFA World Cup, the MLB All-Star Game, NCAA's March Madness for the men's tournament, and so much more that's taking place down in South Philly. Mass transit is critical to our Commonwealth's success, it is critical to our Commonwealth's economy, and it's critical that we invest in it. That's why I have repeatedly stepped up to take action to support mass transit, not just here with SEPTA, but all across Pennsylvania. For 2 budgets in a row, I've proposed recurring revenue to support mass transit systems across Pennsylvania. in every single region and every single county of our Commonwealth. Last year, working together with Senator Hughes, Representative Nielsen, and others, we secured $80 million in increased funding for mass transit. Hardly enough, but it was something, and it represented about $46 million that went directly to SEPTA in additional funding. Then, when the Senate wouldn't come to the table to get a deal on recurring funding, I stepped up last year to flex $153 million of funding that would have gone to other road and bridge projects and instead put it right here in SEPTA for mass transit. This year, the House of Representatives, under Chairman Nielsen's leadership, passed my proposal for recurring funding for mass transit 5 different times. 5 different times they sent it over to the state Senate for their consideration. And importantly, this doesn't get enough attention, but I want you to understand this. As we were fighting for recurring funding, I spoke with each of the county commissioners and the mayor of Philadelphia from the 5 counties that make up the service area of SEPTA, and asked them each to step up their local investment in the system. Mayor Parker, Commissioner Moskowitz, and each and every one of the county commissioners in those 4 counties outside of Philadelphia stepped up with added funding to support SEPTA. That shows how critically important they are to the region, and the fact that they did that with their local budget shows an important commitment. Mayor, Commissioner, thank you very much for your leadership in that space. Sadly, the Republicans who lead the Senate have been unwilling to come up with a deal to deliver reliable recurring funding for mass transit. They've come up with a ton of excuses, but they haven't come up with the funding. That left SEPTA in a position earlier this summer where they didn't have enough funding for their operating costs at their operating service levels that they want at the fares that they want to charge. So then SEPTA, after their hands being forced by a judge, came to PennDOT to request permission to use $394 million of state capital dollars for their operating costs. I granted that request when SEPTA reached out and asked for our approval, and that now allows SEPTA to stay afloat from an operating perspective for 2 more years. But understand, it meant that they had to move their capital dollars just to use those monies for operating costs. We all know that mass transit requires greater investment, and all of the systems need this investment, including SEPTA. And with that investment must come real reform. As SEPTA has been sounding the alarm for years, this system is now in serious need of capital improvements, and funding is needed to make the kind of upgrades that will keep its ridership safe, including the kind of upgrades that are behind me here with the Silverliners. This fall, the United States Department of Transportation ordered SEPTA to repair its fleet of Silverliner 4 railcars and inspect the overhead wiring systems that trolleys use in Center City and in West Philly. SEPTA immediately took action to address those concerns. They completed a top-to-bottom inspection of all 223 of their Silverliners in just 45 days. They identified the needed safety repairs in order to get these trains back in service. So far, they've completed repairs on more than 100 of those rail cars and returned them to service. At the same time, PennDOT, under the strong and steady leadership of Secretary Mike Carroll, who joins us here today, has stepped up its work with SEPTA to ensure that the rest of the system is operating smoothly. While the FRA, which is the federal agency, oversees and has jurisdiction over these regional rail cars, PennDOT is responsible for overseeing safety inspections of the metro and the trolley systems within SEPTA. So it's a bifurcated oversight system. Secretary Carroll and his great team at PennDOT take that responsibility extremely seriously. Over the past 2 years, under Secretary Carroll's leadership, they've hired designated safety managers that are specifically assigned to SEPTA, and they're currently in the process of bringing on 3 additional safety and inspection staff members, 2 of whom will be solely dedicated to SEPTA and their needs. PennDOT's inspection team is working closely with SEPTA to ensure the overhead catenary system for trolleys is working properly, and they will continue to carefully oversee SEPTA's repairs and SEPTA's upgrades. Every single person who is here today cares deeply about SEPTA, and most importantly, cares deeply about the safety of the riders who take SEPTA every day. Scott Sauer and his team at SEPTA, I believe, have been extremely proactive. After years of neglect, this leadership team is operating effectively. But unfortunately, because SEPTA was forced to flex capital dollars for their operating expenses for these next 2 years, they don't have the capital funds they need to make all of these urgent repairs and safety upgrades. That is why today I'm here to announce that I have directed PennDOT Secretary Mike Carroll to make $219.9 million in additional state capital dollars available for SEPTA to keep riders safe, and at the same time deliver reliable, on-time service. Secretary Carroll has moved forward with this appropriation, sending these dollars to SEPTA for their use. These are flexible dollars allocated for mass transit capital needs across the state, and this support will allow SEPTA to complete repairs and upgrades to their Silverliner fleet so they can operate safely for years to come. As a result, SEPTA will be able to restore full service on regional rail by Christmas time. At the same time, Scott and his team at SEPTA are already working to replace these Silverliner 4s, which are clearly outdated, because we understand it is going to take years for them to be replaced. We have to make these investments right now for the safety and efficacy of their current fleet. I understand that it will take a while for these Silverliners to be replaced. Scott has quoted me 10 years. Look, SEPTA riders don't have the kind of time to wait 10 years, and I don't have the patience to wait 10 years. And I understand he's going to move as quickly as possible. But with this action today, with providing these $220 million, we can ensure that for as long as these rail cars are used, they will be safe and they will be effective modes of transportation for riders in and around the Philadelphia area. SEPTA is going to continue to do this work on the Silverliners. In addition, the $220 million that we're providing SEPTA will allow them to do additional work. They'll be able to lease and purchase up to 30 additional train cars from transit systems in Maryland and Montreal that use similar rail cars, as well as other agencies that they feel meet their specifications. They'll be able to use this money to repair the catenary system and purchase new equipment that will make maintaining those overhead wires faster and easier. They're going to be able to overhaul motor and door operators on cars on the Broad Street line and the Norristown high-speed line to make them more reliable and improve service along those lines. And they'll be able to repair escalators at 13 different SEPTA stations and implement an advanced inspection technology and other safety upgrades at SEPTA's headquarters. As a result of these investments, SEPTA will be able to ensure existing regional rail fleet is safe and reliable for the next number of years they need as the new cars make their way onto SEPTA tracks. Look, my administration is once again stepping up to provide SEPTA with much-needed capital dollars to perform these crucial repairs so this system can continue to help people get where they need to go safely. Because, hear me on this, we cannot let SEPTA fail. We have to continue to be there for SEPTA and for all mass transit agencies. It's too important for our economy. It's too important for our communities. It's too important for our entire Commonwealth. Over the past several years, our efforts to deliver recurring funding have been unfortunately blocked by some Republicans who lead the state Senate, who simply refuse to solve this problem for the people of Pennsylvania. So once again, myself and Secretary Carroll have acted within our authority to deliver what SEPTA needs right now. I also appreciate the federal government's oversight role and how they've assisted SEPTA throughout this inspection process. I've met directly with Secretary Duffy, along with Senators McCormick and Fetterman, and appreciate their assistance. Hopefully now the federal government can put their money where their mouth is and step up to assist SEPTA in additional ways. Either way, I want you to know I'm going to continue to be a governor who supports mass transit, who gives a damn about SEPTA, who cares about those 800,000 people that rely on SEPTA every single day, who respects the workers who work here, and who believes that the future is bright for our Commonwealth, in part because of mass transit and the important role it plays here in our Commonwealth. Mass transit is absolutely critical, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to fund it.